Okay, let's look into veto powers of president. Veto powers of president is given in article 111 of Indian constitution. Veto powers with respect to bills, article 111. So before we enter into veto powers of the president, let's look into what veto actually means. It is opposite to vote, or it is in contrary to vote. Vote is to elect someone or select someone. Veto is to reject someone or discourage someone or destroy someone or something which is being already accepted or created. If there is change in the position of the vowels, then it will result in the different meaning. The best example of the veto power is the veto power enjoyed by the permanent five members of UNSC. We know the fact the permanent five members are USA, UK, France, Russia, and China. USA wants to attack on North Korea and Iran. Take it as a hypothetical condition. Why USA wants to attack on North Korea or Iran? It has of the opinion or the viewpoint of the USA. It says that whatever actions North Korea is doing these days, it is very much detrimental to socio-economic development of the world, or it is against the humanity. So whatever things Iran is doing, it is against the socio-economic development of the world and it is against the humanity. This viewpoint or the opinion might be accepted by UK or it might be accepted by France, and these three countries have the opinion that the North Korea and the Iran is against the humanity. It is the right time to attack on these two countries. So when it comes to Russia and the China, they will not accept this opinion or the viewpoint of these three countries. They doesn't want to attack on the North Korea or Iran. They are going to discard or destroy whatever opinion is created or generated among the three countries of UNSC. So as we know the principle of, or we know the principle of UNSC, if they want to attack or if they want to wage war against any of the country, it should be accepted by these five members. So this veto is to discard or to destroy any of the opinion is being created or viewpoint it is being generated. We are going to discard it. So in India, we are not going to use the veto power in the harsh manner how it is being used in the UNSC. In India, it is of the milder condition. In India, we are going to use the veto power only to delay the legislation or to provide extra time for the legislation or to provide extra time for the reconsideration of any of the bills. So the Indian president, what the veto powers enjoyed by the president of India is not as harsh as the veto powers of the permanent five members of UNSC. So let's check into veto powers of president of India. We know the fact that any bill will become the law when it been passed by the first house and when it is duly passed by the second house, and if it gets the assent of the president, then only it will become act or law. Say suppose a bill is being passed by first house and it is being duly passed by the second house and it is presented before the president. During this time, president has four options. He can give the assent to the bill, he can withhold it or reject it outrightly, he can return it for reconsideration, or he will not take any action with respect to that bill. So these are the four options available with respect to the president. If the president gives assent, then it will become law or act. So this is the first condition where he is giving the assent. Say suppose a bill been passed by the first house with majority, it's been passed by the second house with majority, it is being presented before the president. During this time, president is going to withhold that bill or is going to outrightly reject that one. He feels that the provisions of that bill or he is not happy with the provisions of that bill, or he is being told by the council of ministers headed by the PM that this bill should not be passed. So the power to withhold any of the bill which is duly passed by both the houses of the parliament, this power to withhold or to reject outrightly is called absolute veto power of the president. Here the president is exercising his absolute veto power. Absolute veto means he is outrightly rejecting the or he is withholding the bill, is not giving the assent to that, is withholding that. With respect to what kind of bills he can exercise the absolute veto, ಅಬ್ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ವಿಟೋನ ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ಬಿಲ್ಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವುದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಭಾರತದ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಪತಿಗಳು ಎಕ್ಸರ್ಸೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವಿತ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಟು ಟೂ ಬಿಲ್ಸ್. ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಬಿಲ್ಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ಆರ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಬಿಲ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಬಿಲ್ಸ್ which are reserved for president's consideration. ಈ ಎರಡು ವಿಭಾಗಗಳಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರಂತ ಬಿಲ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅವುಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಬ್ಸಲ್ಯೂಟ್ ವಿಟೋನ ಎಕ್ಸರ್ಸೈಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಅಂತ, ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ exercises absolute veto over the two kinds of bills. The first one is the bill which are introduced by the private member, and the second type is the bills from the state legislature which are reserved for the president's consideration. What do you understand by the phrase private member bill? We know the fact that the parliament consists of 700 plus MPs, and within that MPs some 60 plus or 70 plus will act as council of minister which is headed by the prime minister. So these members are called as ministers. Apart from these members, council of ministry, that is 60 or 70, what could be the number? Remaining members, that is 600 plus, who are left in the parliament, they are called as the private members. Whether they are from the ruling party, whether they are from the opposition party, or if he is an independent MP, that is immaterial over here. Only thing is, if he is not a minister, when these persons are the members, if they introduce bill in the Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, that bill is called as a private member bill. So when it is being introduced by the minister, it is called as a government bill. If it is introduced by the non-minister, then it is called as a private member bill. Indian president can exercise his absolute veto with respect to the private member bill. So he can withhold it or he can outrightly reject that one. When it comes to the state bills which are reserved for the president consideration, if it is duly passed by the legislative assembly and the legislative council, if it is there, he can outrightly reject the bill whichever comes from the state or whichever being reserved for the presidential consideration. This is the absolute veto enjoyed by Indian president. So next look into the other kind of veto which is enjoyed by the president of India. Say suppose a bill is duly passed by the first house, it is duly passed by the second house with the majority, and if it is presented to president for his consideration or for the assent, if he gives the assent, it will become a law. If he withholds it or if he rejects it, it will be discarded and it will not become a law. That the power to withhold or to reject or to discard is called the absolute veto. He is not going to assent it or he is not going to withhold it. What president will do in this condition, he is going to return the bill. So the president will return the bill to the parliament for the reconsideration. He will tell that or he will suggest that this bill could be made more comprehensive, this can be made more elaborative, this can be used for the socio-economic development of the country. He will give some suggestions. if the parliament or the both the houses, if they consider his views or the suggestions given by the president, and if they incorporate it in the same bill, or if they don't incorporate or if they don't accept but they will send back the same bill, so then it is the obligation on the president to give assent. So when it is sent for the second time with or with without any changes, it is obligation on the president to give the signature or to assent the bill. This, in the first case, while he returns, he is giving extra time or he is delaying the legislative process to make the bill more comprehensive or to make any changes in that one. So the power to return the bill for reconsideration to the parliament is called the suspensive veto of President of India. So this is the suspensive veto. The best example for this one is when Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was president, he returned the bill, that is the Office of Profit Bill. It was introduced by, or it was passed by both the houses when Congress government was ruling. He returned the bill saying that you can make some changes in this one. With or without changes, Congress government passed the Office of Profit Bill, and it was obligatory on the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to give assent to that bill. This is what we call suspensive veto. This is the second type of veto enjoyed by Indian president. So the other veto is, we have pocket veto. Say suppose bill is being passed by first house with the majority, and the second house it's been duly passed and it is available with the president. President has four options over here, as we know. If he gives the assent, it will become the law. If he withholds it, he is going to discard it or he is going to reject it, it will not become the law. He is going to return it, it will become the suspensive veto. He is not going to do these three options available with him. What he will do, he will not take any action with respect to that bill. He will take no action. Whatever bill duly passed by with the majority from the Rajya Sabha, from the Lok Sabha, when it is presented before the president, he will not take any action with respect to that bill. The power of the president of taking no action with respect to the bill which is duly passed from the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, the power of the president to take no action is called as a pocket veto. Pocket veto in the sense, literally, it doesn't mean that he will keep the bill in his pocket and roam around in the Rashtrapati Bhavan or in the wherever he goes. The pocket veto means that he will not take any action. It will be lying on the table or it will be somewhere else. It's not that doesn't matter, but he will take no action with respect to that. Till what time or what is the time period Indian president can enjoy the pocket veto with respect to any of the bill? This is not been mentioned in the constitution, so it could be indefinite. If you ask when he is going to give the give assent to that one, or when he is going to consider that thing, that depends on his discretion. And apart from that, whenever Council of Minister headed by Prime Minister advises him saying that that bill is very much important, on this day you have to consider that bill, on that day he is going to give the assent, because he has to act as per the guidelines or the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. So pocket veto, it doesn't mean that he will keep it in shirt pocket or pant pocket, he will roam around in Rashtrapati Bhavan or somewhere else. Pocket veto, in it means that he will take no action. What is the time period it is given? The constitution has not mentioned that. It might be indefinite. So these are the three powers enjoyed, three veto powers enjoyed by the Indian president. There is a saying called as the pocket of Indian president is deeper than pocket of president of USA. Why they are telling this one? Deeper in the sense, ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಥವಾ ಆಳವಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತಲ್ಲ. It shows that in USA, president has to return that one within the stipulated time period. When it comes to India, the time period has not mentioned. That is why it is the indefinite period. That is why they are going to call it as the pocket of Indian president is deeper than the pocket of USA president. These are the three kinds of veto powers enjoyed by the president of India. That is, one is when he withholds or outrightly rejects, that is absolute veto. When he returns, that is suspensive veto. When he take no action with respect to that bill, it is called as pocket veto. These are the three vetoes available with Indian president. Okay, let's look into the ordinance making power of president is mentioned under Article 123. And Article 123 of the Indian Constitution provides the legislative powers to President of India when the legislature is absent. Legislative power in the sense power to make the laws. These ordinances which are made by the president or issued by the president, they are temporary in nature. When it comes to applicability, the force of the ordinance is similar to the laws made by the parliament. When it comes to jurisdiction, in simple words, on which subjects president can issue the ordinances, it is similar to the subjects on which parliament can make the laws. That shows parliament can make the laws on the subjects which are enumerated in the central list and which are enumerated in the concurrent list of the 7th schedule. On these subject matters, parliament can make the laws, and in the same manner, in the similar fashion, president can issue the ordinances on these subjects or subjects enumerated in the central list and the concurrent list. If you look into this discussion, there might be few questions in your mind regarding, will it be possible for the president to issue the ordinances throughout the year? And the second question arises over here, will the power given under Article 123 to the president, is it parallel to the legislative power of the parliament? So these two questions, the answer for these two questions is given in the Article 123 itself, that says big no for these two questions. Just look into the Article 123 in detail. Article 123 says president can issue ordinances when the two conditions are satisfied. The first condition is when both the houses or any one of the houses is not in session. And then the second condition is it can issue ordinances when the issue is very important, very urgent, and the circumstances very contingent. ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟು ಆರ್ಡಿನೆನ್ಸಸ್ನ ಕೊಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ಸುಗ್ರೀವಾಜ್ಞೆನ ಓಡಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಇರೋಂಥದ್ದು. Here we don't use the word emergency. This emergency will be dealt separately when we take up the emergency power of the president. Here we are going to use public interest, very important issue, very urgent issue, and the contingent circumstances. So we can look into, we can simplify this discussion with the table over here. Say suppose Lok Sabha is not in session, Rajya Sabha is not in session. Will it be possible for the president to issue the ordinances? Yes, he can issue. Then Lok Sabha is not in session, Rajya Sabha is in session. Will it be possible to issue the ordinances? President, yes, he can issue. And then Lok Sabha is in session, Rajya Sabha is not in session. Will it be possible for the president to issue then ordinances? He can issue easily. When Lok Sabha is there, Rajya Sabha is there, will it be possible? It's not possible when both the houses in the session. You check the first condition over here. Any of the important matter or the contingent matter or the urgent matter has arisen. So president has to take the decision at a he has to take the decision at the early stage. If we go for the normal procedure to make the laws, the bill should be passed from the Lok Sabha and bill should be passed from the Rajya Sabha, and then he will give the assent to the bills. Now the Lok Sabha is not in session, Rajya Sabha is not in session. If that is the case, then the president has to summon them in the beginning, and they will come and assemble. They will discuss over it for days together or months together. Then they will pass the bill and it will be assented to make the law. This is the time consuming, but the matter is very contingent and urgent. We have to take the decision. So the president, what he will do, according to the advice of the Prime Minister, aided by the Council of Ministers, he will take the decision in the beginning and later it will be ratified. It holds good for the second thing also. Rajya Sabha is in session, and for the laws to be made, it should be passed through three levels: Rajya Sabha, House 1, and then the Lok Sabha, and it should be assented by the president. Here Rajya Sabha is working, but Lok Sabha is not in session. If the law is passed by the Rajya Sabha, it has to wait till the assembly of the Lok Sabha, but the matter is very urgent, so we can't wait. At that time also we can president can issue the ordinances. This holds good for the third condition also. When it comes to the fourth condition, Lok Sabha is working, they will discuss. Rajya Sabha is in session, they will discuss, and they will pass with the majority. And if it is provided or if it is presented in front of the president, he will give the assent. It will be made into law. So this is the condition. So president, when both are working, is not supposed to issue the ordinances. So that shows that the answer for the first question, will it be possible to issue the ordinances continuously? It's a biggest no, because when Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha get back into the session, they will pass the laws, and the power to issue the ordinances will not be available with the president. The power to issue the ordinances is available with the president only on three conditions: when both the houses are not working and any one of the house is not in the session. So this is the first thing. Then if we check the validity of ordinances, the constitution under article 123, it says it should be ratified by the parliament within 6 weeks. Say suppose both the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha is not in session and they get back, say suppose on 10th of July, ordinance been passed by the or given by the president. It should be ratified before 2nd or 3rd week of the August. Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha will sit separately. The parliament, they are in the session. They will consider or they will take up the issue. Whatever ordinance given by the president, it will be considered separately by Rajya Sabha or separately by the Lok Sabha. If they do accept it, it will become a permanent law. Initially, I told ordinance is temporary law. Now it will become the permanent law. If it discard or if it doesn't accept the provisions of that ordinance, then it will lose its validity or it will be discarded. If the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha doesn't consider this one after assembly also, then also after 6 weeks it will be automatically discarded. So if you do remember, for the best example for this one, the recently you might have heard about the reorganization of the Jammu and Kashmir. Initially ordinance was made, later it was ratified by both the houses in the month of August and September. Then this is in the normal condition. Say suppose there will be a situation when Lok Sabha will be dissolved. When Lok Sabha will be dissolved, at that time what will happen? Rajya Sabha will ratify it in the initial stages. When the Lok Sabha meets up, fresh elections will get over and the Lok Sabha will come into action. The first sitting from the date of first meeting and within 1 month they have to ratify the ordinance whichever been given by the president. This is the exceptional condition. In a normal condition, this is what happens. From the day of issue ordinance, it will be ratified before the 6 weeks. If the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha accepts it, it will become the permanent law. If it is discarded by either by Rajya Sabha or by the Lok Sabha, it will lose its validity and it will be automatically it will be discarded. If both the houses, Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, it will not consider or it will not give any it will not think of the ordinance, then after 6 weeks it will be automatically lose its validity. In the special condition, when it is get dissolved, when the Lok Sabha is in the dissolved state, it will be first ratified by the Rajya Sabha and it will wait for the Lok Sabha to reassemble. When they meet from that date, within the 30 days or 1 month, they have to ratify the ordinances which is being given by the President of India. This is the validity of ordinances. So if we do check the second question, whatever we asked, the second question was, will the ordinance making power under the Article 123, is it the parallel legislative power? The provisions given for the validity tells that it is not the parallel legislative power given to the President under the Constitution of India. It is given only to meet the very urgent issues or the very important issues when the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha are not in session. So just to meet the important and the urgent. If you look into the Article 123, superficially it looks like executive has given the more power than the legislative, because under Article 123 it provides the legislative power to the executive. But in India, we follow the parliamentary form of government. In this parliamentary form of government, the basic principle is executive is always responsible to the legislature, or executive will be controlled by the legislature. If you check the ordinance making power of the President also, it should be ratified within the 6 weeks. Only when it is being ratified by the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, that is the parliament or the legislative bodies, then only it will become the permanent law or an act. Otherwise, it will end or it lose its validity after 6 weeks. So the ordinance making power of the President is not the parallel power or the parallel legislative power given under the Article 123. So in the parliamentary form of government, the legislature always superior than the executive. So the second question, what we observed earlier, whether it is the parallel power with in contrast to legislative power, the biggest answer for that one is, it's been given in the Article 123 itself. It is no for that thing. So the ordinance making power is given to the President to make the laws or the temporary laws to address the very important, urgent and the contingent circumstances when both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha are not in session, or either of the Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha not in session. This is not the parallel power given to the President. So this is to meet the very important, urgent and the contingent matters. In most of the cases it is being misused, that is different issue, but the Article 123 says President can issue the ordinances when Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha is not in session, or either of the houses is not in session and the matter is very important, urgent and the contingent. Let's speak about the other power Constitution as given to President, that is mandatory prior recommendation from the President. Before introducing certain kind of bills in the Parliament, Minister or the member of the Parliament should get the recommendation, prior recommendation from the President, then only he can introduce the bill in the Parliament. If you do remember January, ಫೆಬ್ರವರಿ ಮಾರ್ಚಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿರೋಂತಹ ಹಿಂದೂ ಪೇಪರ್ನ ನೀವೇನೋ ಗಮನಿಸಿದ್ರೆ, ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಬಜೆಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಅಲ್ವಾ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ದು ಚಿತ್ರ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಿರ್ಮಲಾ ಸೀತಾರಾಮನ್ ಅವರು ಸೌಟ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋಂಥದ್ದು ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಸಿಹಿನ ಹಂಚ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಬಜೆಟ್ನ ಮಂಡನೆ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ, ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದ ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಬಜೆಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೆಷನ್, ಅವರೆಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಹಲ್ವಾ ಹಂಚಂಥದ್ದು ಅದು ಹಿಂದಿನಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರೋಂಥ ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯ. ಈ ಸಂಪ್ರದಾಯ ಹೊರತಾಗಿ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಚೆಕ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದಟ್ ಹಲ್ವಾ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ 2 to 3 days prior to that one, they have to complete a constitutional formality. That constitutional formality is either finance minister or any of the representatives has to visit president and they have to give the summary sheet of the budget. The summary sheet will explain briefly about the budget, how they are going to get the money, how they are going to spend the money, what are the new policies, what are the new programs, what are the new plans, and what they are planning to achieve. Everything will be in short given in this summary sheet. If the president give signature or if he accept this one and he assents this one, then that will be considered as the prior recommendation. Once he get the signature, then only they can come and introduce the budget in the session. If the prior recommendation or it is the mandatory prior recommendation, if it is not obtained, then they will not be able to introduce the bill in the budget. So the mandatory prior recommendation is required for the money bill, and then it is required for the any of the bill which speaks about the reorganization of the state, or any of the bill which speaks about the variation in the tax, either increase or in the decrease where the state is interested or the state interest lies, and the other bills we speak about the international trade. These bills mandatorily should get the prior recommendation from the president. This is the other special power given to the president in Constitution of India. Okay, let's speak about the joint sitting or the joint session of parliament. What do you understand by the word joint sitting? Joint sitting is in simple words, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha will sit together to discuss few issues and to resolve the problems. This is what we call joint sitting, when the Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha will be sitting together to discuss some issue. Who will summon the joint sitting? It is the power available with the president. It is the authority who will summon the parliamentarians to come for the joint sitting. Why he will call for the joint sitting? Just to resolve the deadlock. What do you understand by the word deadlock? Deadlock in polity, it means that it is the difficulty in passing the laws. How difficult, like how the situation of deadlock will appear in the parliament. Let's take the condition over here. Say suppose any of the bill been passed by Lok Sabha and it has entered into Rajya Sabha. So in the Rajya Sabha, what they will do, they will outrightly reject the bill itself. When the bill is being outrightly rejected, then the difficulty arises in passing the law. That situation is called deadlock. Or what Rajya Sabha will do, it will suggest some amendments to the bill, or it will give the advice, or it will give the guidelines. But these guidelines or the amendments which are being initiated by the Rajya Sabha is not accepted by the Lok Sabha. In this situation, it will result in the deadlock. Or say suppose if it is an ordinary bill being passed by the Lok Sabha, it entered into the Rajya Sabha, and for 6 months Rajya Sabha has not taken any action with respect to this one. Then this will result in the deadlock. This is the condition. The deadlock in polity means difficulty in passing the law. Then how this difficulty will be overcome? PM, who is the Council of Minister, what he will do? He will visit the office, or he will speak to the president, and he will convey the information regarding this bill. He says that this is the very important bill. This bill have to be passed at any cost. You call for the joint sitting. Then what president will do? He will call he will summon all the MPs on this date, or on this date you have to come for the joint sitting or the joint session, and he is also going to inform the speaker regarding the joint sitting. So the speaker will preside over the joint sitting, and all the members of the Rajya Sabha or the Lok Sabha will sit together and they will discuss the issue and they will put the bill for voting over here. This bill which is being passed by the Lok Sabha will be put for voting in the joint session. If it is passed by the simple majority, this will be given to President for the assent. This is what joint sitting. So the power to summon the joint sitting or the joint session lies with the friends. Try to remember few facts regarding the joint sitting. We know that in joint sitting both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha will be present to resolve the issues, to resolve the deadlock. In case of joint sitting, in case of joint sitting, Lok Sabha always have the upper hand or it has the privileges. Privileges in the sense the joint sitting will be held according to the Lok Sabha rules only, and it will be presided by the speaker. If the speaker is absent, then it will be presided by deputy speaker. If the deputy speaker of the Lok Sabha is absent, then it will be presided by deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Please do remember here the chairman of Rajya Sabha will not get the chance to preside over the joint sitting. It is the deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha will get the chance if the deputy speaker is not there, because chairman of the Rajya Sabha is not a member of parliament or the member of Rajya Sabha. He will not be allowed to preside over the joint sitting. This is the one kind of special privilege given to the Lok Sabha with respect to the joint sitting. The second privilege or the second advantage for the Lok Sabha is, in joint sitting the issue always decided by the simple majority. Voting will be passed through the simple majority. We know that simple majority is nothing but half of the MPs present and voting plus 1. If you check the strength of Lok Sabha, it is 500 plus. If you check the strength of Rajya Sabha, it is 200 plus. If you look into these numbers, we can conclude one fact that if any of the issue is raised by the Lok Sabha, there is much chance or the greater chance getting passed in the joint session. So this is the privilege what Lok Sabha enjoys with respect to the joint sitting. One with respect to the rules, and the speaker will be presided, and whatever issues been raised by the Lok Sabha will, if it has gone for the joint sitting, there is high chance of getting passed just because of the number of members which are there in the Lok Sabha. Okay, let's talk about the vote of thanks. In the beginning of the every year, usually first sitting of the Lok Sabha will be addressed by the president. President will come over there and he will address the parliamentarians. He will brief about the achievements of the government in the last year, and he will brief about the plans, programs and the policies of the government, and it's going to be implemented in the coming year. After his speech will be put for voting. After voting, if they do get the majority, that shows that government enjoys the majority. If the speech is being accepted or the vote of thanks being accepted by the majority of the parliamentarians, that shows that government is enjoying the majority in the house. If it doesn't get the majority, then the problem arises. What kind of problem arises over here? Immediately opposition might not take the advantage of this situation, but after 2 to 3 days it might move the no confidence motion against the Council of Ministers or the government. Then if the no confidence motion is accepted by the speaker, then the prime minister who heads the Council of Ministry has to prove his majority. If he proves the majority, he stays in the office. If he doesn't prove the majority, then he has to resign from the office. This simple speech or the vote of thanks, if it is not passed in the Lok Sabha, it will result in the resignation of the Council of Ministry. If the simple vote of thanks is not passed, it will result in the resignation of the Council of Ministry. Then what about the budget if it is not passed? If the budget is not passed, this will also result in the same thing, that is it will result in the resignation of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. This was the question asked in the UPSC. Not only the budget, any bill, if it is introduced by the minister, if it is not passed by the parliament, if it is not passed in any house of the parliament, then it will result in the resignation of the council of minister headed by prime minister. Let's look into the dissolution power given to the president with respect to Lok Sabha. Dissolution of Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha, it's a permanent body, as a permanent house, it can't be dissolved. Dissolution means that is the end of life of the Lok Sabha, that particular Lok Sabha, and it will give a call for fresh election. When president will call for the dissolution, how he is going to call for the dissolution? It will be based on the recommendations of the prime minister who heads the council of minister. So based on the recommendations of the PM only, he is going to dissolve the Lok Sabha. On the recommendations of the PM, is going to dissolve the Lok Sabha. While dissolving the Lok Sabha, he uses his situational discretion power or the personal judgment. How he is going to use this personal judgment, we can check in this fashion. Whatever suggestion given by the PM, if it is very much genuine in the sense PM enjoys the majority, government enjoys the majority, and it has the majority in the parliament also. Still, the PM is asking for the dissolution of the Lok Sabha. This is the genuine case. So, well, what is the case which is not genuine? Here, the PM is not enjoying the confidence of the house, he is not having the majority, and the government or the ruling party, the number of support is decreasing day by day. During that position, what PM will do, he will suggest the president to dissolve. Why he is suggesting him to dissolve? Only for these two issues. One is he wants to avoid no confidence motion will be moved against him in the house, and he doesn't want any of the other party members or the opposition party to form the government. So this is the malified case, or this is the malified intention. During this period, president can use his situational discretion or the personal judgment, and he might allow any of the member to form the, or he might call any of the capable candidate to form the government. This is okay. Let's look into the judicial powers given to the first citizen of India and the government. Constitution of India provides judicial powers to the president and the governor to address the excesses of the judiciary while awarding the punishments, or if there is any miscarriage of justice. The judicial powers given to the president and governor can be classified in 5 ways. That is pardoning power, commuting power, remission power, reprieve, and to respite. To understand these 5 kinds of powers, we can take up an example saying a person 1 been awarded death sentence or capital punishment. Say suppose a person P2 been awarded rigorous imprisonment for 10 years. Say the person 3 or P3 been awarded simple imprisonment for 10 years. So these 3 persons can approach both president and the governor for the pardoning power. Pardoning in Kannada, it is mannisu. In simple English word, to set you completely free or to absolutely pardon you. Absolutely is going to set you free. That is what pardon means. If a person been awarded with a death sentence, if he approaches president, he has the options to approach governor also. A person with the rigorous imprisonment has the option to approach president, and he has the option to approach governor. P3 can approach president and the governor. When it comes to simple imprisonment, governor and the president can abolish the punishment against him and set him free. When it comes to rigorous imprisonment, with respect to P2, both president and the governor can pardon his rigorous imprisonment and set him free. When it comes to death sentence, person P1 or P1 is awarded by court. When it comes to death sentence, only president can award the or president can set him free, not the governor. That shows that you have to remember this factor, that pardoning power is available with respect to death sentence only with the president, not with the governor. If you take in any other criminal cases or any of the cases, both president and governor can enjoy the pardoning power. When it comes to capital punishment and the death sentence, the power to pardon is available only with the president, not with the governor. This is what we call pardoning power of the president. The next thing is the power to commute. Commute in the sense, in simple words, to change the character of the punishment. In Kannada, it is ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಅಥವಾ ಬದಲಾಯಿಸು ಅಂತ. Say suppose P1 suffering from who has been awarded death sentence, P2 rigorous imprisonment and P3 simple imprisonment. All the person will approach either president or the governor. What president will do? He will change the character of the death sentence, or the whatever been death sentence been awarded to the person P1, it will be changed to the rigorous imprisonment. He feels like this death sentence is bit harsher, let's change it to rigorous imprisonment. Or the president feels like this any of the person or P2 been awarded with the rigorous imprisonment for 10 years, if you feel like this is much harsher, so let's convert it into simple imprisonment. So the president will change the character of the punishment. Death sentence been changed into rigorous, or rigorous might be changed into simple imprisonment. This power is also available with the governor. If the P1 approaches, he can commute it, he can to rigorous imprisonment to simple imprisonment. This is available with the governor also. When it comes to remission, remission in Kannada it is kadimegolisu or kaditagolisu. In English, in simple English, is to reduce the punishment. What they will do, if P1 approaches the president or the governor, P2 approaches the president or governor, P3 approaches the president or governor, during in case of P2, say they take up this condition, P2 approaching the president or the governor, what they will do, they feel like the 10 years of rigorous imprisonment is much harsher. What they will do, they will not change the character of the punishment, but they will change the duration of the punishment. 10 years might be reduced to 6 years, 7 years or 5 years. If it is simple imprisonment for 10 years, it might be changed to 6 years or 7 years of simple imprisonment. In case of remission, they are not changing the character of the punishment. It has been rigorous imprisonment only, it is simple imprisonment only. Only they are changing the time or the duration. When it comes to reprieve, reprieve in the sense, in Kannada, it is tatkalika tade, or in English we can simply call it as wait for the signal. They are going to if any of the person been awarded death sentence, he will be hanged on some day or some on this date, president will give the signal to the officer or to the executing authority to stay it for some time. If it is rigorous imprisonment, he will inform the officer, or he will inform the executive authority to wait for the some time. This power is available with the president and the governor too. When it comes to respite, in this power, they are going to consider the special physical problems or the condition of the convict. Say suppose if a lady been awarded with imprisonment, either it is rigorous imprisonment or the simple imprisonment, but the problem is she is pregnant or she is suffering from any of the health issues, so that she, by considering this physical or the special condition, she will be given break for some time when she stays in the hospital. So these are the important pardoning power available with the governor and the president. You do remember this fact, all the powers available with both president and the governor. The only difference is when it comes to the death sentence, pardoning power is available only with the president, not with the governor. In other cases, he can pardon, governor can pardon anything except the descent. Okay, let's discuss about the military powers of the president. There is no doubt is the supreme commander of the Indian Army, Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force. These are the three forces which is the first line of defense comes under the Indian Navy, Indian Air Force, Indian Army comes under Ministry of Defense. Is there are other paramilitary forces that will come under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Is the authority to declare war with any of the country, peace with any of the country. War in the sense when there is a confrontation between the defense force of one country with the defense force of the other country. Now what we are witnessing, the quarrel in the China border or the exchange of fire in the Pakistan border, that will not be considered as a war. It is a fire exchange or the skirmish we are going to call it as. So the war means there should be confrontation of the defense force of India with the defense force of Pakistan or the defense of the China. This is what we call war. War declaration of war is available with the president. It has not been given to the any other authority including the PM. If you do check the election of the president, in this members of parliament going to vote in the election, MLAs will vote in the election, MLAs of the all the states and MPs of the all the states will vote for the presidential vote in the presidential election. This shows that president is the symbol of nation or the symbol of unity. If we take up the if we take the position of the prime minister, it is most or more political compared to the post of president. He might, if he is given the power of declaration of war, he might use it for his political gains. That's why they might have not given the declaration of war. The power to declare the war lies with the president, who is the symbol of unity and the symbol of nation. Let's speak about the emergency powers of the president. President is the only authority who can proclaim the three kinds of emergency in the nation. The first emergency under Article 352 he can declare is national emergency based on two conditions, that is war and external aggression, and on the second condition is armed rebellion. If the president is satisfied that there is a threat to any part or the whole of the nation, he can declare the national emergency in the part or throughout the nation. When it comes to Article 356, it is popularly called as President Rule or Constitutional Emergency. Other name is State Emergency. If the President is satisfied that the state, a particular state, is not running its administration as per the direction given by the central government, or it is not running the administration as per the provisions of the constitution, or the president is satisfied that the state constitutional machinery is broken down, then the president can declare under Article 356 president rule in that particular state. He might declare the constitutional emergency in a particular state based on the report of governor or without the report of the governor. It is the satisfaction of the president, he can declare president rule in any of the state. When it comes to the Article 360, president, if he is satisfied, he can declare the financial emergency in the nation. We will make the separate video for the emergency. During that time, we will discuss everything in detail. As of now, just remember these things, that is three kinds of emergency can be proclaimed by the president only. If it is state emergency or the national emergency, all the emergencies will be declared or proclaimed by the president. Don't get confused with the state emergency. It will be declared as the governor or something else. There are no such options in Indian constitution. All the emergencies, three kinds of emergencies, will be declared by the president of India. Let's look into the special immunity power given to the president under Constitution of India. There will be no criminal proceedings against the president. There will be no arrest warrant issued against the president. He will not be compelled to appear before any of the court during the term of office, that is for 5 years, as long as he stays in the office of the president, there will be no criminal proceedings against him. If they want to conduct any of the criminal proceedings against the President of India, either it will happen after he will be removed from the office, or if he resigns or the term ends. Till the time he remains as a President of India, there will be no criminal proceedings will be held against the President of India. This is the special immunity power given to President of India. In case of the civil cases, the proceedings can be held, but there should be 2 months prior notice given regarding the civil proceedings. So as long as he stays as in the office of the president, there will be no criminal proceedings. Civil proceedings can happen with the 2 months prior notice. This is the special immunity given to President of India. Okay, let's conclude whatever discussion we have made so far. If we want to conclude, the president is a very important position in Constitution of India. It is a functional part of the Indian administration. Functional part of the Indian administration. Why it is called as a functional part of the administration? For the proper functioning of the nation and the administration of the nation, this institution is very much necessary, and it is the indispensable part of the Indian administration. We know the fact that it is a ceremonial position, titular position, or the nominal position. Still, it is a functional position. Some of the political analysts speaks about the president as the institution of president in India is rubber stamp. He doesn't have any much power, because most of the powers are enjoyed by the prime minister, who is the council of minister. If you do check the functions whatever been performed with relation to parliament, or if you do check the powers given to him, either it might be emergency power, military power, or pardoning power, or other powers which the president enjoy, if you do look into those factors, it is hard to believe the fact that this institution is called as a rubber stamp institution. So it is a very important institution in the Indian administration. Thank you. ಮುಂದಿನ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಗೋಣ. ಹೋಗೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ವಿಚಾರ ಏನಂತಂದರೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಸಾಧ್ಯವಾಗುತ್ತಷ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆರೋಗ್ಯದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಗಮನ ಕೊಡಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆರೋಗ್ಯ ಎರಡು ಥರದಲ್ಲೂ, ಮಾನಸಿಕ ಆರೋಗ್ಯ ಮತ್ತು ದೈಹಿಕ ಆರೋಗ್ಯ, ಇವೆರಡೂ ಸಹ ಶುಭ್ರವಾಗಿದ್ದಾವೆ ಮತ್ತು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿದ್ದಾವೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನೀವು ಈ ಜಗತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬೇಕಿದ್ರೂ ಸಾಧನೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಆಲ್ ದ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್. ಟೇಕ್ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಕೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್.